Hi there, this is Chris Chapnick at Motor Legends. Now today I'm going to be talking about something that you might not expect us to be talking about because it's a racing helmet. It's a racing helmet called the X-SPR Pro and it's from Shoei. The X-SPR Pro is Shoei's race helmet. It's the helmet worn by their sponsored riders in series like MotoGP, World Superbike and British Superbike. It is designed specifically for riding on the track, although Shoei always knew that it would prove popular with deep-pocketed sports bike riders. Frankly, however, it's not the kind of helmet that you would expect a company like Motor Legends to be marketing. And indeed, even though the helmet's been on the market for some years now, we have not offered it. And that's because we're not really a sports bike kind of company. We don't, for example, sell any race leathers, even two-piece leathers. We don't sell race boots. We don't sell racing gloves. We take the view that it is impossible for a company to be all things to all people. And so we have set out our particular stall to appeal to a few particular audiences. Now, we do some cool gear. We sell, for example, wax cotton jackets from Belstaff. We do the best jeans from people like Roker. And we do lots of cool retro-inspired leather jackets. We also reckon we have all of the best gear for commuting. So I'm talking about laminated suits from people like Rucker and Halvarsson, boots from Daytona and Held, the most technical flip lids from people like Shoei and Schubert, and so on. We also reckon that we've developed a bit of a specialism in adventure gear. Now, every manufacturer makes adventure clothing these days, and there are outfits out there with drop liner membranes, some with laminated membranes, and there are obviously outfits with removable membranes. We reckon, however, that we have a solution for you, whatever kind of adventure rider you want to be. Not forgetting, of course, that for many, adventure riding is just a fancy name for going touring. Now, these specialisms, as it were, we felt were enough. One cannot be an expert in everything. And even though a number of us here at Motor Legends ride sports bike and run track bikes, we just thought that that end of the market was well catered for by the chains. And so we've never been minded to offer what might be termed a serious race helmet. After all, why would we? What has turned our heads a little, however, is PFS, Shoei's revolutionary fitting service, which we think is absolutely brilliant. In fact, come into the shop these days looking for a helmet and you'll find it pretty difficult to escape without experiencing a PFS fit. The system pretty much guarantees a perfect fit, and if you're going to spend a lot of money on a helmet, why wouldn't you want the best fit possible? If, by the way, you want to know more about PFS, if you click on one of the links in the descriptions, there's a video there that explains what PFS is, how it works, and so on. Anyway, in talking to Shoei about the X-SPR Pro helmet, what became clear was that there's a demand from sports bike riders and track day enthusiasts to have their helmet properly fitted. If you're going to be racing around a track at high speed, it has to be hugely important, obviously, to have a helmet that fits correctly. You will never on the road subject a helmet to the level of forces that you'll experience on the track. The speeds are much higher and so are the stakes. Your helmet on track simply has to be right. And nobody knows more about how to make helmets fit better using PFS than we do. We are Europe's leading fitter. Nobody does as many PFS fits as we do. Nobody knows more about how to get a perfect fit from a PFS fit on a Shoei helmet, which is why we have been persuaded by Shoei to take on the X-SPR Pro. Now, that doesn't mean that here at Motor Legends we are in any way changing direction. We still won't be offering leather suits, and I think it's unlikely that anytime soon the shop is going to become overrun by leather-clad bikers bumping into the furniture with their knee sliders. But if you are prepared to spend upwards of £700 on a race helmet, it only seems right that the option be there to have it professionally fitted. Now, PFS is what Shoei uses to fit helmets to their MotoGP, World Superbike, BSB and Isle of Man TT riders. So why wouldn't you want the same service? But the issue with the X-SPR Pro is that it's unlike any other Shoei helmet. In particular, the headliner is different. It's far more customizable. We can do many more adjustments on the X-SPR Pro than we can do on, say, the Neotech or a GT Air. But at the same time, it's way more complex. Trying to get the fit right at home is unlikely to succeed. You're not going to get a helmet like this to fit the way it should. And frankly, we all know that if you try to have this done at a retailer, most retailers won't have a clue and most of them won't give a damn either. To get the fit right on an X-SPR Pro, you will need to have access to the sizing information provided by PFS. Frankly, I just cannot see any other way. You need to have all the liners, the pads and the inserts on hand. You need to know how to fit the various parts, and you need to be able to avail yourself of the services of an experienced fitter. Now, here at Motor Legends, we carry all the parts, and as Europe's indisputable leader in PFS fitting, we also have the knowledge and the experience to get the job done right. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is briefly run through some features of the helmet. I'm not going to do this in any great length because in some ways I'm not trying to sell this helmet to anybody. In fact, for most of our customers, this would simply be the wrong choice of helmet. But if you're going to buy one of these helmets, there are some things that you should probably know. The X-SPR Pro has been designed specifically for the track, and so it's got an even stronger and more protective shell than you get on your average Shoei. Now, most Shoei helmets are constructed with what is known as an AIM shell, AIM standing for Advanced Integrated Matrix. The X-SPR Pro has an AIM Plus shell, and that's formed using a super hard, thick outer layer that gives you greater protection against penetrations. And that's important on a circuit because if you end up in an accident or there's a crash and a bike's pedal, a bike's foot peg hits your helmet, you want something that's going to resist penetration from something like that. Now, obviously the helmet has been extensively tested in the wind tunnel. The shape of the helmet very much was formed in the wind tunnel. That also accounts for the various spoilers and aerofoils. Now, apparently the helmet is good for over 200 miles an hour, and that, I've got to say, is good to know as you're racing down the A272 on your way to Loomis on a Sunday morning. Helmet's accredited to the latest ECE 2206 standard, but it is also FIM approved for international racing. It weighs just under 1,500 grams in a size medium. Now, it's got to be said that's pretty light, although I'm sure that there are lighter helmets out there. The helmet comes in 4 shell sizes, and that's important because in general, the larger the number of shells that a helmet comes in, the better it's going to fit. Venting is always going to be important when you're racing, and accordingly the X-SPR Pro is a well-vented helmet. But what has to be borne in mind is that the venting on this helmet has been designed to work when you're leant forward over the bars, so at an angle like that. The venting is not going to work anywhere near as well if you buy this helmet and use it on an upright bike. On the chin, the lower vent feeds air into the cheek pads. The cheek pads are aerated to allow the rider to feel the benefit of this. The upper vent is designed to demist the visor. There are 3 adjusters on the brow of the helmet that feed 4 channels that run through the EPS, and you get lots of holes in the EPS to better improve the cooling effect that comes from that flow of air. There are 2 exhaust vents on the sides of the helmet. Hot air can also escape through the rear spoiler. The visor on the X-SPR Pro is interesting because basically it's the same visor that you get on the NXR, except on this version it will take tear-offs. The visor has as large a surface as you're going to find on pretty much any race helmet. It's also a particularly tall visor, meaning that you get a good view down the road when you're tucked in low behind the screen. On the edge of the visor you get what are known as vortex generators, and these help smooth or create a smooth flow of air around the sides of the helmet. Now, because of the possibility of a visor becoming detached or opening up in an accident, the helmet comes with 2 separate safety devices that are designed to stop that happening. There are little red switches in the visor mechanism itself, and what those switches do, they prevent the release mechanism from operating. But you also get a locking slider at the front of the visor, and this will prevent the visor lifting even if you're riding at, I don't know, 200 miles an hour. But what we really love about this system is that when you lock the slider in place and the visor is open, you create a brilliant crack position. Hopefully we're going to see this on other helmets in the future. It's what everybody wants, and of course it's what everybody complains about on Shoei's other helmets. Helmet comes with a 120 pin lock, as you would expect, but it's a particularly large one. And what it means is that when it's fitted, it's almost impossible to see the outer edge of the pin lock, and of course on track that could be distracting. Now, there's a lot of other detail about the X-SPR Pro, but it's not of great importance, I have to admit, so I'm going to run through that quite briefly. Helmet fastens by means of a double D-ring system, as you might expect on a race helmet. The cheek pads can be removed in an emergency using the EQRS straps. The chin bar, or the inside of the chin bar, has been designed to take a hydration system, and you get 2 different chin curtains in the box. The ear wells inside the helmet will also take speakers, although it might be considered a strange helmet for a comm system, unless of course you need someone to tell you your lap times, I suppose. Obviously there's no drop-down sun visor in the X-SPR Pro. You can, however, get a whole range of tinted visors, but if you're going to miss a drop-down sun visor, you might consider Shoei's photochromatic transitions visor that darkens in bright sunlight. But I've got to tell you that over £200, that's not cheap. Frankly, if you're going to spend this much on a helmet, you owe it to yourself to get the fit just right. The only way to get a perfect fit on the X-SPR Pro, in our view, is to get a proper PFS fitting done. And I can't recall whether I've mentioned this already in the video, but there's nobody more experienced with PFS fitting than we are. Now, unlike many PFS centres, we always hold stocks of all of the pads here. Importantly, we always aim to hold all of the cheek pads as well. And for the X-SPR Pro, the cheek pads come in 4 thicknesses. The standard is a 35, but you also get a 31, a 39 and a 43. And that's important because it seems to us that there's no point in having a fitting to get the fit around the head absolutely perfect if the helmet is then going to be loose around the cheeks. But getting the optimum fit on an X-SPR Pro is much more complicated than it is with other Shoei helmets. And that's because the headliner comprises 6 separate pads, each of which can be removed and repositioned in a different place. Now, these pads can be made thicker by adding extra layers of foam to them, or they can be made thinner by peeling layers off. The system, it has to be said, offers an unparalleled level of customization, but it's a complicated system. Interestingly, the cheek pads in the X-SPR Pro can be adjusted in the helmet, and by adjusting them, basically what you can do, you can lift the front of the helmet, you can raise the helmet up so that when you're tucked in behind the screen, you can still look down the track. This gives us what is in effect with this helmet a race mode and a road mode. Now, obviously the X-SPR Pro is not the only premium helmet on the market. In the past, of course, Ally would have been the first choice for many, although back in the day, it's got to be said, there were far fewer choices. But these days, you've got similar offerings from people like Bell, from AGV, Shark and others. But some of those helmets still only come in 2 shell sizes, and I can assure you, none of those offer the ability to create a bespoke fit in the way that the Shoei does. In many respects, the X-SPR Pro is in a league of its own. You can book a PFS appointment by phone or online at motolegends.com. And in some ways, book an appointment is the best way because you're going to have a confirmed time slot. When you come here, you will not have to wait. We keep Fridays clear for walk-ins. You can just turn up. But if there are people in front of you, you may have to have a short wait in our first-class waiting room outside until there's space here. The session, the PFS session, will take about 30 minutes. And of course, we carry all the designs of the X-SPR Pro in stock. But let's say we didn't have your chosen design in your size on the day, we might have to order it in, but normally that's just an overnight affair. What would happen is then we would fit the revised liner and send the helmet out with that liner to you once it comes in. Now clearly it goes without saying, I would hope that we can do a PFS fit for any Shoei helmet. But the good news is that once you've had a PFS fitment, then we have on record all the information we need to get a perfect fit on any Shoei helmet you might buy in the future. Anyway, if the X-SPR Pro seems like your kind of helmet, come and see us. We are going to do the best we can to make sure you get the best from it. Well, I hope you found that interesting. If you'd like to see more race helmets, then visit the website motolegends.com. Although actually thinking about it, we don't sell any more race helmets. But anyway, if you want to learn more about the X-SPR Pro, then click on one of the links on the screen. Sometimes they're up there, sometimes they're down there. That will take you to a dedicated page on the website. And when you're there, you can check out the spec of the helmet in a little bit more detail. You can check availability, and obviously if you want to, you can buy a helmet there and then. Now, when you buy from us, we try to make the process as simple, straightforward and risk-free as we possibly can. There's no delivery charge on any item of protected wear that you buy from us. Returns are totally free, and what's more, we give you a full 12 months in which to decide whether you do want to return something to us. Then we have the best price promise in the business. John Lewis was rightly famed for its never knownly undersold price promise. We go one stage better. If you can find a retailer selling anything that we sell at a price that is lower than ours, we will beat that retailer's price by a full 10%. Now, there are a few terms and conditions associated with what we call our price beat guarantee. Nothing particularly onerous, I can assure you, but if you are going to attempt to price beat us, I suggest you go over to the website and check out what those terms and conditions are. Now, if in the future you'd like to see bulletins from us about new products, then go to the website. At the top of the website, there's a piece of copy that says newsletter sign up. Click on there. Within seconds, you'll be in business. In future, you'll receive our email bulletins. If, however, you prefer to get your information videographically, that is to say in this form, we'd be simply delighted if you want to become a subscriber to our YouTube channel, and you can do that by clicking on the button below. Finally, I'd like to make mention of our fabulous little shop here at Motor Legends. We are based about a mile from the centre of Guildford, a mile from the railway station. And as I've suggested, it's a small shop. It's got a small footprint, but it's attached to our warehouse where over 3 floors we carry more than £4 million worth of stock. And technically that makes us the second largest motorcycle apparel store in the country. But we like to think of ourselves as more than just the amount of merchandise we have here in the building. We're all about service, we're all about personal fitting. If you want to check us out, visit Trustpilot. We have the highest 5-star ranking in the business. And when you come to see us, we'll serve you only the finest Italian illy coffee, or we'll serve you proper Yorkshire tea in a proper teapot. And who knows, if you're lucky, you might even get to sample one of our delicious motorcycle-shaped shortbread biscuits. Anyway, this has been Chris. I hope to talk to you again soon.